All rise.
The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Please be seated.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone inside and outside the courtroom. Before we start, I had indicated in my order scheduling this initial appearance that there would be some pictures, but I've been told that you would rather have the same pictures as the one in the previous initial appearances with no close-ups of your client. Is that correct, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
Then I will ask the photographers to take pictures exactly you did for the previous initial appearance with no close-ups of the accused, just global pictures of the courtroom for 1.5 minutes, please. Thank you, Madam Photographer. And now, Madam Court Officer, can you please call the case?
This is file KSC BC 2023-10, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Sabit Januzi and Ismet Bahtjari.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Before asking everyone present in the courtroom to introduce themselves, I would like to remind one more time everyone of a few rules that must be observed at all times in order to make courtroom proceedings smooth. Please make sure you activate your microphone before speaking and that you switch it off as soon as you finish. Talk slowly and clearly, as we have interpretation from and into Albanian and Serbian. Wait 5 seconds before responding to me or any party or participant in order to allow the interpreters to finish the interpretation. What is said in this hearing will be transcribed in real time and will be reflected in a transcript available to the parties and to the public after this hearing. I would also like to remind the parties that certain information in this case is subject to protective measures and confidentiality orders. Confidential information shall not be disclosed in open session. If any party or participant must go into private session and refer to any confidential information, please indicate the reasons. Now I would kindly ask the parties and participants to introduce themselves, starting with the Specialist Prosecutor. Madam Prosecutor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. For the prosecution, my name is Taz Shahabuddin. Next to me are Josh Hafetz and John Devaney. Seated behind me is Fabian Unsernad.
Thank you, Madam Prosecutor. Now I turn to the defense. Counsel, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Mr. Thomas Gillis. I'm solicitor in Belgium, Ghent, Belgium Bar Association, and I'm the duty counsel of Mr. Sabit Januzi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. And for the record, I note that Mr. Januzi is also present in the courtroom. Now I turn to the registry.
Good afternoon, Your Honours. Jonas Nilsson, Deputy Registrar. I am representing Registry today, together with the Head of Unit and the staff of the Court Management Unit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nilsson. And for the record, I'm Nicholas Guillou, pre-trial judge for this case. The accused is appearing today for the first time before the specialist chambers, following the indictment confirmed against him. Mr. Januzi, will you please rise? Can you tell us your full name?
Januzi.
I am Sabit Januzi.
What is your place and date of birth?
Born on the 29th of April 1966 in the location place called Fushtis e Eberme.
What is your citizenship, or what are your citizenships?
I have the Kosovo citizenship.
Your current profession?
I'm currently a pensioner, veteran. I receive a pension as a veteran of the Kosovo Liberation Army war. In the past, I used to be a builder.
Thank you, Mr. Januzi. You may be seated. Let me now move to the procedural history of the case. On 2nd October 2023, in my capacity as pretrial judge, I confirmed the indictment submitted by the SPO against Mr. Januzi, charging him with the offenses of Count 1, attempt to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by serious threat; Count 2, attempt to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by participating in the common action of a group; and Count 3, intimidation during criminal proceedings. On 5 October 2023, the SPO arrested Mr. Januzi in Kosovo, at which point he was served with the confirmed indictment. Mr. Januzi was transferred to the detention facilities of the Kosovo Specialist Chambers in The Hague on 6 October 2023. Mr. Januzi, before we proceed any further, I have to make sure that you can follow the proceedings in a language that you understand and speak. Can you confirm that you understand and speak Albanian?
Yes.
Mr. Januzi, by this I am satisfied that you can follow the proceedings in Albanian, a language that you understand and speak in accordance with Rule 92 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence. And Mr. Januzi, if at any moment in the course of the proceedings you are not receiving interpretation, please draw my attention to it immediately. Now, allow me to explain the specific purpose of the initial appearance for the benefit of the accused and those joining us in the public gallery and following the proceedings online. Today's hearing is not a trial. No evidence will be presented or debated, and the guilt or innocence of the accused will not be discussed or decided. The purpose of this initial appearance is regulated by Article 39 of the law and Rule 92 of the rules. According to these provisions, as pretrial judge, I shall have the charges in the confirmed indictment read to the accused in a language he understands and speaks. Confirm that the accused understands the indictment. Satisfy myself that the rights of the accused, in particular his right to counsel, are respected. Inform the accused that within 30 days of today's hearing, he will be called upon to admit guilt or plead not guilty on each charge set out in the indictment. If the accused wishes to do so, he may immediately admit guilt or plead not guilty. And finally, I shall also set other dates as appropriate in performing my functions as pretrial judge. I expect the parties to adhere to these matters, which I will address in turn. And again, should either party wish to discuss any other matter that is not expressly foreseen in the context of the initial appearance, they are invited to do so in writing by making a filing before me. First, may I ask you, Mr. Januzi, to confirm that you have received the confirmed indictment in a language that you understand and speak?
Yes, I have received it in the Albanian language.
I will now ask Madam Court Officer to read out the charges set out in the confirmed indictment as foreseen in Article 39 of the law and Rule 92.
Thank you, Your Honor. In the confirmed indictment, the Specialist Prosecutor charges Mr. Sabit Januzi with Count 1, attempting to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by serious threat, punishable under Article 401(1) and 5 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15(2) of the law. Count 2, attempting to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by participating in the common action of a group, punishable under Article 401(2) and 5 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15(2) of the law. And Count 3, intimidation during criminal proceedings, punishable under Article 387 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15(2) of the law. These offenses were committed between at least 5 and 12 April 2023. In relation to these offenses, there is a well-grounded suspicion that Mr. Sabit Januzi is criminally responsible pursuant to Article 16(3) of the law for A. Committing the offense under Count 3 pursuant to Article 17 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. B. Co-perpetrating with Mr. Ismet Bahtjari the offenses under Counts 1 to 3 pursuant to Article 31 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. C. Assisting in the commission of the offenses under Counts 1 to 3 pursuant to Article 33 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. D. Agreeing to commit with Mr. Ismet Bahtjari the offenses under Counts 1 to 3 pursuant to Article 35 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code, and or E. Attempting to commit the offenses under Counts 1 to 2 pursuant to Article 28 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Mr. Januzi, I wish to remind you that this is not the time to contest the charges, but simply to acknowledge your understanding of the charges. You will have ample opportunity to challenge the charges with the assistance of your counsel. Mr. Januzi, did you understand the charges contained in the confirmed indictment as read out to you by Madam Court Officer?
I believe I did.
Thank you, Mr. Januzi. You may be seated. Now, let me inform you of your rights before this court. The law on the specialist chambers and the rules of procedure and evidence guarantee you a number of rights, and I will read out to you the most important ones. First, you shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. In the determination of the charges against you, you are entitled to a fair and public hearing, subject to any measures ordered for the protection of victims and witnesses. You have the right to be informed promptly and in detail, in a language which you understand, of the nature and cause of the charges against you. You have the right to have adequate time and facilities for the preparation of your defense and to communicate with the counsel of your own choosing. You have the right to be tried within a reasonable time. You have the right to be tried in your presence and to defend yourself through your counsel. You have the right to have counsel assigned to you and without payment if you do not have sufficient means to pay for it. You have the right to examine or have examined the witnesses against you and to obtain the attendance and examination of witnesses on your behalf. You have the right to have the free assistance of an interpreter if you cannot understand or speak the language used in the court. You have the right not to be compelled to testify against yourself or to admit guilt. You have the right to remain silent, and no adverse inference shall be drawn from your silence. You also have the right to make unsworn statements relevant to the case, and you may appear as a witness under oath. You have the right to lodge preliminary motions, to challenge the jurisdiction of the specialist chambers, to allege defects in the form of the indictment, and to seek the severance of the indictment. You have the right to receive within 30 days of today's hearing the supporting material to the indictment submitted for confirmation. You have the right to receive all statements of witnesses whom the specialist prosecutor intends to call to testify at trial in the language you understand and speak, namely Albanian. You have the right to receive immediately any information which may reasonably suggest your innocence or mitigate your guilt or affect the credibility or reliability of the specialist prosecutor's evidence as soon as the information is in its custody, control, or actual knowledge. You have the right that all material and relevant evidence or facts in possession of the specialist prosecutor be made available to you before the beginning of and during the proceedings. This right is only subject to restrictions which are strictly necessary and when any counterbalancing protections are applied. You have the right not to be detained for an unreasonable period prior to the opening of the case, to request review of decision on detention, and to appeal such decision directly before the Court of Appeal. You have the right to appeal directly before the Court of Appeal a decision on preliminary motions challenging the jurisdiction of the specialist chambers, and you have the right to seek leave to appeal other decisions. Mr. Januzi, you heard the most important rights that you enjoy in accordance with the applicable legal framework of the specialist chambers. Do you understand these rights, Mr. Januzi?
Paul.
I do.
Januzi, you may be seated. I wish to inform you that, according to Article 21(5) of the law, you may not represent yourself because you are currently in detention. Representation by a specialist counsel is therefore mandatory. It is my duty as pretrial judge to ensure that your right to counsel is respected. To this end, I have noted the registrar's filing informing me of the assignment of duty counsel. I also understand from the registrar's filing that pending the appointment or assignment of counsel, you have been assigned Mr. Thomas Gillis as duty counsel in accordance with Section 17.2 of the Directive on Counsel and Regulation 21 on the legal aid regulations. Mr. Januzi, can you confirm that Mr. Thomas Gillis has been assigned to you as duty counsel today?
Può confermare.
Yes, I confirm it.
Thank you, Mr. Januzi. You may be seated, and it follows that the accused is presently represented by specialist counsel. I will now turn to the possibility for the accused to enter a plea, if any, in accordance with Rule 92. Mr. Januzi, within 30 days from today, you will be called upon to admit guilt or plead non-guilty on each charge of the confirmed indictment. If you wish to do so, you may choose to immediately admit guilt or plead non-guilty. I would therefore like to ask you, Mr. Januzi, if you had the opportunity to discuss the charges in the confirmed indictment with your counsel, and if you are prepared to enter a plea at this time. And if it is the case, I invite you to stand up while you plead. Mr. Januzi.
Poi amigațem.
Yes, I am ready. And I plead not guilty to any charges raised against me and mentioning my name.
You may be seated. Now, let me turn to the working language of the proceedings. In the scheduling order for this initial appearance, I ask the parties to make oral submissions at today's hearing on the working language to be used in the present case according to Rule 8. And I will ask the parties to indicate their preference for the record. Madam Prosecutor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our preference would be English.
Thank you, Madam Prosecutor. Counsel?
Yes, Your Honor, also English, of course.
Thank you, Counsel. I will issue a decision in due course on this matter, but I take note of your submissions. In the scheduling order for the initial appearance, I indicated that I intend to schedule, pursuant to Rule 96, the first status conference on Thursday, 12 October at 1400. The purpose of the status conference will be to review the status of the case and to organize exchanges between the parties to ensure expeditious preparation for trial. Mr. Januzi, I wish to remind you that you have the right to attend these status conference with your counsel. However, with your written consent and after receiving advice from your counsel, pursuant to Rule 96.2, the status conference may be attended by you in person with your counsel participating via video conference link, by your counsel with you, Mr. Januzi, participating via video conference link, or it may also take place in your absence, Mr. Januzi, with your counsel present or participating via video conference link. I remind everyone in this regard that should counsel of the accused wish to participate via video conference, written notice must be provided 24 hours in advance of the relevant hearing so that the registry has time to make the appropriate accommodations. And such notice shall be sent via email to the registry and should include the written consent of the accused. The registry shall file these emails as correspondences on the record of the proceedings. I would now like to ask the defense whether it plans to participate to the first status conference in person or via video conference. Mr. Gillis.
Your Honor, I will be present and the client will be present also.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. This is noted. Madam Prosecutor, do you have anything to add on the status conference?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. You will receive a scheduling order that will include the agenda in due course, probably tonight or tomorrow morning. I will also ask the parties for written submissions on the topics of the status conference and any other matter they would like to raise during this status conference. And I can already inform the parties that I intend to schedule Wednesday, 11 October at noon as for the date for filing these written submissions. After the status conference, I will issue a decision on the specialist prosecutor's disclosure obligations in accordance with Rule 102 and on the redaction regime for the proceedings. Before I issue this decision, I will seek submissions from the parties, and on that end, I recommend the parties to review my framework decisions on disclosure in all the cases before this court before making their submissions. At this point, I would like the parties to indicate if they have any other issues they would like to raise today, starting with the Specialized Prosecutor's Office.
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Madam Prosecutor. Counsel?
Nothing at this moment, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counsel. Mr. Januzi, I would like to ask you if you have any issue you would like to raise regarding your arrest, transfer, or detention.
Po,
Yes,
jam arrestuar
I was arrested on the 5th of October in the morning. If my memory is correct, it was 6:35 or 40. However, on the 4th of October, I was summoned to appear in the offices, ULEX offices, to appear before the prosecutor for a statement. I went there on my own, voluntarily, without any police presence, and I took a bus to go there. A lawyer joined me there, whom I had asked to be present, and we both went there. On the next day, the 5th of October, surprisingly, to my surprise, I was not summoned to appear again, but ULEX police forces were sent, and I was arrested in front of the gates of my house. As I was, the investigator called me on the phone asking if I could go outside. I was sleeping at that time. I heard the phone, answered the call, went outside and got arrested, which in my opinion was unnecessary, because just like on the 4th of October when I went voluntarily there, I would have gone there on the 5th the same way if I had been asked to do so. Now, if I had been informed that I had to absolutely travel to the Hague Tribunal, it would have been, again, absolutely and wholly unnecessary to arrest me, because I always answered to court summonses. This was all I had to say, Your Honor.
Much, Mr. Januzi. This is noted, and this is in the transcript. Do the parties want to add anything, either on this specific issue or on any other topic? Madam Prosecutor?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Gillis?
Not at this particular moment, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. Finally, Mr. Januzi, as you remain in detention, I would like to inform you that you may challenge your detention on remand in accordance with Rule 57, and this will be dealt with written rulings. This concludes today's hearing. Thank the parties, the registry for their attendance. I thank the interpreters, audiovisual technicians, stenographer, and security personnel for their assistance. This hearing is adjourned. Thank you.
All rise.